Hi everyone, so welcome back to another video. And in this video, topic of discussion is to discuss Amazon PPC as a system and not a hack, and how I think about it. So in this video, I'll go through all of these things and we'll get to a point where we'll see why it's a system and it's not a hack. So without further delay, let's get started. So, why PPC feel stressful for most sellers? It's a most common question that it's the most stressful thing for most of the sellers. So let me explain it why it is. Most sellers treat PPC as a tactics. They react to daily cost changes, and without structure, it feel unpredictable. So that's why it's become most stressful for them, as they treat it as some tactics, and the moment they start running ad, that they will see an immense increase, but actually that's not the case. And they tweak the causes every single day, and in this scenario, the whole campaign is destroyed. Predictable structure, they don't understand the system of the advertising, and they think that the PPC will bring them immense sales as soon they start running it. So this is how they become most stressful with the PPC. Because most of the sellers, they don't have a system. So you need to understand that PPC is a system, and it's not something quick sale system where you will just run the ad and you will see an increase in your revenue. You will, rather than destroy your whole cash flow on it. So a system defines how decisions are made. It separates learning from scaling, and it reduces emotional reactions. So structure creates predictability. What does it mean? That it actually separates from scaling. So if you have a system and you know how you have to play this game, then you can be easily scaling with it. And you don't have to react emotionally once the cause is high. So you don't have to react with it and drop all of your ads, because it will destroy your system. But you need to understand why if there is high increase in the cause, and you need to understand what's problem behind. So start learning and analyzing those problems and fix those problems, so it will be much more easy to scale rather than just taking actions uh, emotionally. So in this scenario, you need to have a predictable structure where you understand and you know what areas you need to fix. And after fixing those areas, your PPC will become like a system, and it will be becoming much more structured rather than just going with a blind eye. Then there are three roles of Amazon PPC. So let me go through it. The first one is called the discovery one. The second one is scaling, and the third one is defense. So each role requires a different approach, and these three roles needs to be running all the time, whether you are launching or whether you are at scaling phase. So the first one is the discovery. Discovery means that all of those areas where you learn that words convert. So basically, when you try to run your advertisement, you need to understand what are those of areas, those things which converts, and you can increase the spend on those areas. So the first step is the discovery phase, where you start learning. Also, Amazon start learning, and once you understood that these amount or these keywords or these areas placements working for me, then you double down on them and you increase the spend on those areas. It's become a scaling phase, and with this scaling, you have control over your campaigns, and now you understand that these specific areas work for me. You understand your number, and then it gives you a control on your cash flows. Then also defense. So you need to be running defense campaigns to protect your brand revenue rather than leaving it aside and your competitors gonna win it. So you also need to have a defense campaign in order to protect your brand, stealing from your competitors. So these are the three ones. Now, why most sellers lose control? because they think that they will mix the discovery, scaling, and defense campaigns, and it become more stressful to them because now the budgets are competing with one another, signals become more unclear, and performance become inconsistent. Now they are competing with one another. You have no idea of what things are converting for you. Budgets are to the roof, and you don't have a system clear pathway to control this, and eventually you become and taking decision based on your emotion, and your product become fail. So how this whole thing works, so you need to understand that these three steps that you need to discover, you need to scale on those discoveries which are profitable, which are scalable to you, and you also need to create a defensive campaigns to secure those areas. Now, what I optimize first. So, how I optimize is that I basically understand the campaign structure rather than going for bids. So, campaign structures can be for different type of campaigns, and you need to understand the uh, rationale behind those campaigns rather than just doubling down on the bids. And budget allocation also need to be done before keywords. Then the risk control before aggressive scaling. So we need to have a risk control, and we need to know on which side of things we are going. So it will give us an aggressive scaling, but we first come to a discovery phase where we understand all of those areas. Then it will give you a stability before growth. So you will have more stability on your growth, and now you understand your brand much more. So let me repeat it. How I optimize is that I basically understand the campaign structures before my bids. So important to know your campaign structures, and bids come the later part. Then the budget allocation is also important before keywords. So the amount of budget that I'm going to spend on each keyword, I also know about that, and I need to be much more control on my budget with those keywords. Then also risk control before aggressive scaling. So I cannot spend a month's immersive amount of cash on keywords or on campaigns. Rather than I'll keep it control, and it will have much more uh, no risk involved in it rather than having a high risk. So in this way, I'll have a stability on my growth. Next, we'll talk about what I mostly ignore. So daily fluctuations is one of them. There's a lot of daily fluctuations going on, and we need to look for a weekly data, or maybe look for a monthly data to come to a conclusion about anything specific rather than going for the daily fluctuation. But we need to be making sure that the product is scaling daily, or maybe the amount they are spending is regular. If we see that the fluctuations is going on daily basis rather than just on single one day, then it's just something alarming, and we need to look into the positions. So the fluctuation might occur due to a protest, might occur due to some holidays. So it depends. We can also be on top of those things. Then we have isolated keyword performance. So there is sometimes a keyword start performing on a single day performance. So I mostly don't give much attention, rather than it becomes a much high impact on the whole revenue. Then I also mostly ignore the short term win, and I look for the long term win. So if, let's say, on a weekly basis I save a couple of hundreds of dollars, it's not worth it if I lose my rankings. So I'll probably go for a bigger plan rather than play in a longer game rather than going for a short term win. Then I don't do matrices without decision. So I basically understand my matrices and then take a decision rather than just quickly optimizing those campaigns. So it always come to decisions. Then we have the goal of PPC. So we need to understand that the goal is of PPC is to increase the revenue. But this can be feel much boring because you are playing with numbers and it can be boring at the same time. Then predictability matters more than spike. So we need to be predictable and we need to understand. So the PPC gives you a predictability. It gives you access of how much increase you can do with the amount of spend you're gonna increase, or if you decrease, so what would be the potential decrease in your revenue or in your growth. Then it also gives you a control, so you can have a control. If you try to spend more, then eventually you'll have a high increase of revenue. If you play the game very decision based and have a system, so of course you will have a higher revenue if you increase the spend. Then also it gives you signals. If you have a structure, so it gives you signals. So the whole goal of PPC is to have a structurable uh, traffic going on, and it converts eventually if the product is having high potential. So we need to look for all of those. And the things we need to ignore is that the regular spikes or the some of the signals which are not important for us. Now, the final thoughts I would say is that stop chasing hacks and build systems, because PPC work on systems rather than working on the hacks. So have a proper laydown of all of those systems, understand your campaigns, understand your brand, build system, and then work on those systems rather than going for a small hacks here and there, and PPC will eventually work for you. So yeah, guys, that's it from this video. I hope you guys have learned. If you have any question, feel free to drop a comment below and I'll answer all of those. So till then, see you in the next video. Bye.